guess what? I bought a car. Oh my God. I bought a car, my very first car. I can't believe it. It feels unreal. Like, it feels like it's not real, but it is. So, it was Labor Day on Monday, and I've been eyeing this car up for 2 freaking weeks. And I called the last week, and I was like, is this car still available? And they're like, yeah, it is. I was like, do you think it's still going to be available on Labor Day? They're like, yeah, it should be. So, my sister was like, you better call at 9 a.m. when they open and see if it's there. And if it is, we're going. So, I'm like, all right. So, I'm nervous as hell. I'm like, oh, Lord, this car better be here. I don't know what else to do if it's not. So the whole week leading up to it, I've been on the website refreshing it. I'm like, still there, it's still there. And then at one point I was like, oh my God, where'd it go? But it came back. So Labor Day, it was 9 a.m. I was like, this car better be here. So I called, I asked the lady, I was like, yeah, it's 2017 Subaru Crosstrek. She's like, yeah, it's still here. I'm like, all right, I'll be there in a half hour. She's like, okay. So I called my sister. I was like, I just called. The car's available. She's like, all right, we'll be there in like 15 minutes. Come get you. I'm like, ah. So we get there. It only takes like 15 minutes to get to the place because it's right around the corner. So the whole 15 minutes, I was just like, oh my God, like I might be buying a car. Like, what the hell? So we get there and we're walking around. I'm like, oh, is that it? No, that one's not it. And then I looked, I was like, I think that's it. So I ran over to it. I'm like, yeah, that's the price. This is it. This is the car. And they're like, yeah, this car is so cute and little. And I was like, oh my God, I want this car. I want this car. I want this car. So the guy sees us over at this car for like a couple minutes and he walks over to us. He's like, you guys need help? Am I okay? Did you guys need help? So we're like, can we test drive this? He's like, yeah, just give me your license. And I think he made a copy of it or something, and then he gave it back, and I had my sister drive it because I was too nervous. I was like, I'm not trying to crash this car in this parking lot. So she drove it, and I was like, well, you've been driving for 20 years, you would know if this car is bad or not. So she drove it around, I think she drove it around the block like twice, and I was like, so what do you think? She was like, this is nice, this car got a pickup. I was like, so you would buy it if you were me? She was like, yeah. So her wife was in the back seat and I'm in the passenger side. We're just going through everything, looking at everything. I was like, whoa, it's got a moonroof. And I'm like, whoa, it's got a backup camera. I'm like, this car is amazing. Like, I just was like, I need this. She was like, this car is made for you. Because it's like nice and compact in there, and that's what I like. I don't like it when the cars are like really like spread apart and like really wide. I need it to just be like here. Because I'm still new at driving, so I can't just be like, oh, there's all this space. I need everything to just be like right here. So I'm like, yo, this car is amazing. Got little imperfections in it. It's a 5-year-old car, so, and it's used. So I wasn't like gonna be too picky about it. The price was already at like a nice price, and I was like, yes, this is in my budget. This is nice. Got tiny little imperfections, like scratches here. A little bit of a stitching problem on the driver's side. The driver's seat, but like I'm gonna be sitting in it, you're not gonna see it. And so the guy's like, what do you think? I was like, I think I want it. And my sister was like, well, what about this thing? Because there's like this I don't know what the hell it's called. It's a little bit it's kind of yellow, like when you get to the door, when you open the door, is like this strip. And the guy was like, oh, no, that's nothing. You can just peel it off and order another one. She was like, oh, okay. He was like, it's cheap. You don't have to do anything crazy about that. And so we get there, we get inside the place, and he's like, all right, just fill your information out and we'll run your credit. I'm like, oh, shit. I have good credit, but I'm like, oh my God, this is so weird. So the longest part was getting insurance. I was on the phone with the lady for a half hour. Finally got insurance. They approved me like within like 10 minutes of him checking my credit. And then he like printed out all this paperwork about like if I wanted to put like 5,000, 3,000, 2,000, how much like my bill would be. So I did 4,000, and it's not that bad. So then he was like, and then I looked out the window and I was like, the car is gone. He's like, yeah, we're getting it detailed. You want to drive it off the lot, right? I was like, yeah. I was so nervous. So like all in all, it took like 2.5 hours to buy this car. Like the longest part was obviously the insurance, and then after I was done like filling the paperwork out with this guy, we had to go into this office, and this guy printed out a million fucking papers for me to sign, and he's going over all this shit. I'm like, Jesus, I barely understand what half of this shit is. But my sister was like, yeah, I got this too, I got that too. She was like, they didn't even offer me this. Well, you had a better deal than me. And she just bought a Subaru like 3 days before me. But yeah, this car is fucking gorgeous and I love it. So when we got home, I drove it to my place and my boyfriend was home. He was off that day. And my sister texted him like, hey, come down, check out the new car. So, and it was Labor Day, so I was like, so are we hanging out with you guys? Are we going over to your house, barbecuing or ordering something? They're like, huh. They're like, yeah, we can do that. So they're like, we can order food and we'll meet you there. And they're like, that sounds weird. You're gonna meet you there? So then I drove my boyfriend around the block to show him the car, and then we parked it, and then we got like washed up to go over to their house. And they were like, hey, the food's we're picking up the food at 1 o'clock if you guys come over. And he was like, you already know the code to get in the house. I was like, yo, this is weird. So we drove over to my sister's house, get into her house, and no one's home. And we're like, this is weird. And then they come home and they're like, this is so weird that you guys are here. Because she's used to picking us up all the time. And now I'm like, I can drive, like what the hell? And then the next day, which was Tuesday, I had to go to work. So I'm like, this is gonna be the first time I drive by myself. And of course it's fucking downpouring, but I did fine. And as soon as I parked it, I was like, that felt so illegal. But yeah, I just took a video after I wiped it all down and sanitized it, so I'll put it in after this. But I got a car. I'm like an adult now, even though I'm almost 29. It feels so weird. But yeah. Bye. All right. This is my new car, Subaru Crosstrek. Of course, as I'm doing this, the trash truck is here. But look how beautiful she is. She's gorgeous. Look at the inside. Nice. The stitching. I just cleaned it. If you see like wet marks, it's drying. It's Subaru. I love Subarus. My very first car is a Subaru. It's got like minor imperfections. Like there's some stitching problems over there, but like I'm just gonna be sitting on it the whole time. And it's the back seat. It's got a nice spacious trunk. And like the driver's side, like on here of the driver's side has some scratches. I'll show you. And it's got a sunroof too. So yeah, there's like a scratch there, tiny little scratch there, and some scratches over here. But like, there's a freaking driver's side door. Like, you're gonna get scratches. Look at those wheels. But I'm obsessed with it. I love this fucking car.